All right, welcome everyone to the June 19th meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everyone. Ms. Sandoval, please call the roll.
Commissioner Emo? Present. Commissioner Reeder?
Here.
Commissioner Simpson?
Here.
Vice Chair Lemo?
Here.
Chair Gregory?
Here. All right, we'll just get right on to public comment. I have this comment card, but it's not for public. It's for one of our engineering items. So should we read this now or wait until we have that item?
Wait until the end.
Okay, we'll wait until that item. So part of this, though, does remind everyone to turn off their cell phones. All right, so please do so. Thank you. All right. Let me just get down here. A whole lot we're skipping. Summary notes from our March 20th meeting. Any questions about those from the other commissioners? All right. Do we have to approve those if there are none? All right. Well, then moving forward. Let's see. And basically, the staff will now give a report on our first item, Thousand Oaks Boulevard Phase 1 streetscape improvements. And Shahamiri, did I get that right?
Correct.
All right, yes. Close enough? All right, thank you very much.
Very good.
We'll be doing the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Gregory and members of Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. My name is Shamir Shahamiri, Senior Engineer with Capital Improvement Division. There you go. I'm here tonight to update you on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Streetscape Project, Phase 1. A little background information about the project. To establish new land use development and design guidelines for properties and streetscape along Thousand Oaks Boulevard corridor between Moore Park Road and Duesenberg Drive. In 2011, City Council adopted the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Specific Plan, SB20. The plan's concept was to create a retail and entertainment destination, improve the pedestrian environment, and expand arts and cultural programs. The Civic Arts Plaza zone of SB20 is a stretch of Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Erbs Road and Canoe School Road. And the westerly portion of that, from Erbs Road to Zuniga Ridge Place, is referred to as the Phase 1 Streetscape Project. In 2015, M&S engineers were hired to provide conceptual streetscape design for Phase 1 project. Following the approval of the conceptual design by City Council in 2017, the final design of Phase 1 project started and it's currently nearing completion. Phase 1 improvements include new pavement, enhanced pedestrian features, new street trees, and additional traffic signals. The project will also include underground utility upgrades. This exhibit shows existing configuration on Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Erbs and Zuniga. The existing pavement is 80 feet wide with 10-foot sidewalk along both sides of the boulevard. And this is a rendering of the proposed improvements under Phase 1 project. To provide a pedestrian safe and friendly environment, the Thousand Oaks Boulevard pavement will be narrowed down from 80 feet to 68 feet, allowing a 22-foot sidewalk on the south side of the boulevard. The initial plan, was to widen both north and south sidewalks by 6 feet. However, there are a substantial number of existing communication conduits running underground and close to the surface, along the entire north edge of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, which on the exhibit is shown in orange. This prohibits any sidewalk extension into the street on the north side. Relocation of the conduits is not an option due to a very lengthy and costly process. In the future, as properties on the north side of the boulevard develop, the plan is to have the sidewalk extended 10 feet inward into the properties. As depicted on this rendering, there will be concrete pavers installed for sidewalks and crosswalks. The project will provide a new signalized left turn access from Zuniga Ridge Place into Thousand Oaks Boulevard. The existing 2-foot concrete median and the westbound left turn pocket to the old vintage shop property will be removed. This exhibit shows the existing and proposed sections of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Urbs and Zuniga. Removal of the existing westbound left turn lane and 2-foot raised median are highlighted in yellow on the top section, the street section, make up for the 12-foot extension of the sidewalk on the south side of the boulevard. That's also highlighted in yellow on the bottom of the street section. A traffic analysis report prepared for the project indicates that all intersections will continue to operate at an acceptable level of service with the improvements. In regards to community outreach, this project has been discussed at several outreach meetings, and tonight's meeting supplements the previous outreach activities. Advancing the concept of the Thousand Oaks downtown improvements is listed on the City Council's top 10 priorities for 2018-2019 budget cycle. As far as what comes next, after addressing comments from tonight's meeting, we anticipate taking the project to City Council for authorization to bid at their meeting in August. The construction would be in fall, and completion of the improvements is expected by summer of next year. The project is going to cost, construction is going to cost $2.8 million. It's estimated at that price. The staff's recommendation is in the staff report, and with that, we would be happy to take any comments or answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Reeder, please.
Thank you very much. I need a little further explanation on the removal of the concrete median, the raised median. That was put there for a purpose, I would think, when it was last designed, this intersection. Was it there to keep the people from making a turn out of the gas station so they couldn't go east? Because I noticed there's a one-way sign on that median, too.
Yeah, that's correct. Generally, when we put in these raised medians, they're there to help control traffic. And if you just put striping, we know that vehicles tend to just disobey the markings if it was striped. But with a concrete physical feature, that's going to make sure improper movements don't happen.
Now, without that median there, how are you going to control that?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Definitely a challenge whenever we have situations like that where it's striped, and we're going to have to probably resort to enforcement from time to time. But also, I think the congestion levels that sometimes might deter drivers from attempting to make that movement because they're going to see it's so heavy. If they want to make a left turn, they'll be deterred and they'll have to make a right turn instead of a left turn out of one of the properties.
We'll see. The narrowing of the lanes, usually that's associated with decreased speeds. Do you think the speed will be the same through this area?
Initially, it's going to be the same, but as this extends further east, which is phase 2 of the project, we will look at reducing speed, because right now if you reduce it, it's such a small stretch that would be like a speed trap.
Okay. And has any provision being made for a bus stop?
There is a bus stop there, and
okay.
I think it's
I
going to
failed to
remain
see
there.
it.
Yes, it's going to be moved further a little bit east to accommodate the improvements, but I don't think there's any change.
Yeah,
in
Mr. Finley, do you have something to add?
Is this on? Yes. There's currently a bus stop right in front of AutoZone, just to the east of this intersection of Zuniga Ridge, and that will remain in place. It may move just a little bit, but it's really
But
same
that's
location.
beyond the scope of this, isn't
It's
it?
beyond the scope
Yes.
of this, and it's also out of the intersection. You want to make sure those bus stops are not within the intersection. So really this intersection is now going to work as a single intersection from Zuniga to Herbs Road. Currently, it's a single intersection kind of from Los Feliz to Herbs. We're really just adding Zuniga to that. The crosswalks now provide new limit lines and kind of show the limits of the intersection now. So really, we're defining it better than it currently is defined now.
All right. And then the driveway opposite of Herbs Road, will people still turn left in there on the westbound Teal Boulevard?
No, you will no longer be able to turn left from westbound. There still will be access to the right, and then exiting that intersection. It actually we haven't thought that all the way through, but it may be able to go straight or right, or maybe even left. It may be signalized at that location. I don't know that we've worked that out at this point.
And then my last is the driveway exiting Leslie's Pool Service. Will that be a right turn only?
That'll be right turn only.
Okay.
And actually, if you think about it, with the traffic signal now on Zuniga, in fact, the same applies really with the AutoZone. Folks will now currently they have difficulty turning left. Now they'll have an easy access out to get a signalized left turn to get out of Zuniga and go left.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Finley.
Great. Any of the other commissioners have questions? Commissioner Lemo?
Yes, first of all, I think the plan is exactly what many of us envisioned many, many years ago. Some of us, and I know we look a lot younger than this, have been working on this boulevard for 24 years. And this is really welcome. I just want to confirm a couple of things that have come up over the years. First of all, it seems to me that the pedestrians are a lot more visible because of the, for want of a better term, I'll call them the bulb outs that we have attached to where they would cross. And I think that's a very good thing.
Yes.
My one concern, and I've learned about it here and in other cities, are in regards to street trees. The concerns we've had in this community and others is that sometimes we plant beautiful street trees, and in 5 or 7 or even less than that, the sidewalks are coming up because of the trees we've planted. Partially because they weren't planted right by a developer in some areas, partially because we just chose the wrong trees. I'm assuming that has been taken under consideration. And before you answer that, one more thing, which is one of the first things we ever talked about when we first met on the boulevard, and that was what street trees do to merchant signage. So if you could just, those are the only two questions I have, is what will the impact be on the sidewalk? Because obviously you're meeting one of the things that was requested by our citizens, which is more on-street dining. But what will happen to the sidewalks, do you think, over time with the trees that we're choosing, and will they be able to be trimmed and stay within all of our rules and regulations so that they don't impact merchant signage?
Yes, there will be measures in place when we do the landscaping and the trees in the area. That's taken under consideration. We have nice pavers in the sidewalk, and we don't want to damage any of that, of course. And of course, we have a much wider sidewalk, and there are 2 rows of trees on the south side. And the type of trees that we're planting and the maintenance that we go through and all of that has been taken under consideration to prevent any damages to the infrastructure.
Thank you. I actually think it's pretty surprising when I've heard all of the different outreach and the comments made that so much was taken into consideration. Very, very good job.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you. Well, we can certainly appreciate the effort that went into to the design here. You had mentioned that the idea or the concept is to create sort of a entertainment destination, right? And so with that, I mean, there's something ironic about wanting to create an entertainment destination, but then shrinking down the street and an otherwise already busy street. So we're taking lanes away, but yet we're adding more attractions. So I see that as a recipe for basically just creating congestion. But the one question that I do have, there seems to be an inconsistency between the map that I'm looking at and then the cross section here, which shows the lanes in terms of what they look like now and then what they're proposed to look like. In the furthest right westbound lane of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, as you approach Herbs Road, it looks like that is a dedicated turn right lane on the map, but on the cross section drawing, it depicts it as a through / right turn lane. So I'm just wondering, is that really a dedicated right-hand lane, or will it also operate as a through traffic lane?
The lane configurations and the traffic flow is going to remain the same at this point. So what you see here, the reason we could not actually pick a point here that's consistent through the intersection, as you go to the west of Herbs and then east of Herbs and then you come to Zuniga, the lane configuration keeps changing. And the reason that we have that there is to show you that the 10-foot left turn pocket that's taken away right in front of the gas station is making up, with a 2-foot median, is making up for the 12-foot additional sidewalk. So if you look at right in front of the gas station, look at that section, that's what you see here in the...
Right, I see that, but what I'm talking about is the right turn lane on Thousand Oaks Boulevard, as if you were to turn right from Thousand Oaks Boulevard onto Herbs.
Yes.
If you're heading west.
Yes.
Is that a dedicated right-hand turn lane?
Yes, that's currently that's dedicated, isn't it, Jim?
Because the cross-section shows
It is.
something else.
Currently it is, and
The cross-section says that it is a through / right turn lane.
Mayor, would you go back to the proposed plan view? Show it more clearly.
Yeah.
And I apologize for short a microphone over there.
Oh, okay.
The what you're looking at in this cross section, if you were to go and let me if you can visualize this, you're traveling west, and you're right before the Zuniga intersection. Okay, picture yourself there. At that point, that right-hand turn lane is a right or through because it's feeding the right-hand turn lane into or on Herbs Road. So when you travel past the gas station, it's still, it's still a lane, but it's a right now. It's a right turn only lane at Herbs Road, and the reason is because actually, as you cross the intersection at Herbs, continuing west, there's now only 2 lanes to receive the through lanes. So that's why that cross section is kind of made to cover. It's a typical, we call it a typical cross section, and that's why it's through at Zuniga, and it's a right turn only at Herbs, if that makes sense.
No, that does, and that certainly clarifies in my mind. I was just looking at the loss of a lane, right, from 3 to 2, but it's shrinking down to 2 lanes on the other side of Herbs anyway, on the west side of Herbs anyway.
Correct, just like it is today.
Okay. My last question is, the statement in the staff report that all intersections are projected to continue to operate at an acceptable level of service. Is that the delay methodology that the city is currently using?
I believe we used for that analysis, that was this was done a number of months ago before we adopted that new methodology, the highway HCM method. This is based on the prior method, the capacity method. So we did all our calculations based on that. So I believe it's a level of service C or better.
Okay. And the fact that it's based on level of service methodology that is not being used anymore. Does that compromise the report in any way?
Well, technically, we still are going to use the old one at times just to double check, and just for comparison reasons. But we feel that the only difference with the new method is it's going to give you more of an indication of how long you're waiting, because the metric there is delay in seconds. The capacity method is based on how many cars are getting through the intersection based on available capacity.
Right. Okay.
Actually, the report, I'm sorry, Cliff, the report did look at HCM and ICU method both.
Okay. I don't think we got that, but
Right.
right. But that's what you're saying.
Yes, I will. We can provide that to you. I don't think it was part of the attachment to your.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
I'd just like to make one more comment. Again, what we're actually doing to this intersection is reducing one left turn lane, westbound left, that was only feeding the previous business that was there, which is no longer going to be there. So when you think about number of cars that were turning left at that signal going into that business, very few. Other than that, we're narrowing the lane slightly, but we're not taking away any of the lanes. So really, the capacity of the intersection with these changes isn't changing at all. What we anticipate in the future is additional traffic coming to the downtown, since this will become an entertainment center. So we expect that level of service or the delay during busy times to probably increase as the traffic increases. But the capacity of this intersection, current capacity and the future capacity, isn't changing with these improvements.
Okay.
Sure. So,
Commissioner Simpson.
thank you. My input's the same regarding concern of the street trees and making sure that they're appropriate and that the damage is minimal as they grow. So, the other thing that I wanted to relay my concerns about is the removal of the median and just the thoughts of engineers as far as the potential to keep the median in place and just reduce the sidewalk 2 feet. Because if we're already doubling the sidewalk, it seems like potentially that 2 feet could remain in the median. And if we have the data to support preserving the median with safety at the forefront of the decision, I'd just be kind of interested in hearing more about that.
So the specific plan and the actually the downtown master plan that was just recently completed contemplated median, no median, and the council selected the no median option at this point in time. That with the expectation that the narrower street was worth giving up the median. There could be now people who decide to turn left out of the gas station and try to make that left. However, again, now that it's been that way for a while, I mean, our expectation is people have figured out how to go out onto Herbs and go left at the signal anyway, and it's a much better option. And chances are they will do that. Maybe not in the middle of the night. But we don't expect people to be trying to make that left during busy hours, because that intersection is a pretty busy time. I would imagine when that curb went in, it probably wasn't near as busy as it is now. And I don't know when that curb was installed. But we believe this intersection with the signal changes is going to feel more like an intersection and less like the Old West, if you the boulevard in the Old West. So that's kind of where we think this exists, and this was kind of a council directive to narrow the street. Again, every foot you can take off the width of the street helps pedestrians feel more comfortable crossing the street. So again, it's a trade-off. That's where we are right now. But we'd be happy to take that comment back with us and report that.
All right, Commissioner Lemo has one more question.
Well, I have some information that I think is important to share. I have the good fortune of spending most of the last 22 years in the design and delivery of entertainment type venues. Some things that are very, very important. Yes, you're right. It does make it easier to cross, but it also gives confidence to a pedestrian to use the on-street dining and to traverse that area when the sidewalks are larger. So that's one thing. We should also remember that this lane configuration does not have a negative impact on capacity. Hopefully, the negative impact on traffic flow is going to be by additional pedestrians, which is something we can bank on, but not necessarily on increased traffic. We are finding, and this is a stat that everybody can kind of look up, that traffic is being reduced by anywhere from 20 to 30% just because of use of Uber, Lyft, and other rideshare services. Unfortunately, if you look at our numbers here, even in Thousand Oaks, we've had between a 9 and 11% decline in the purchase of new cars. Young people aren't buying them anymore. You can use Uber every day, and it's the same as a lease payment on a car. So just some things to keep in mind, that the community sort of drove this with the desire for making things more pedestrian friendly in an entertainment area. And what we've been a little bit more fortunate than most cities are, we have people installing or putting in entertainment type businesses, even though we don't have all the traffic that we'd like to have for those yet. So I just like our commission to remember that size is not a main factor in traffic flow when you have the same number of lanes, but there are inherent traffic calming measures in wider sidewalks. Remember that up until maybe 10 years ago, the number one thing that Thousand Oaks Boulevard was really thought of was an alternative to the 101 freeway. And if you look over years what that did to the long-standing businesses on the boulevard, the first businesses that left were bars and bowling alleys. They were temporarily replaced by coffee shops and bookstores, to quote former council member Dennis Gillette. Now, let's take a look at what's thriving on the boulevard. We have 3 or 4 new businesses and 2 more to open by the end of this month that are going to bring some traffic. We need to be able to enhance their pedestrian experience. So I think what you have done here is a very good job in the study. But I also want to make sure that the things that you couldn't study yet, we should all realize those are traffic minimizing measures that we don't have to put into effect, but that the community is doing on their own. So I wanted to make sure that we looked at it from the eyes of somebody who's literally had to spend money to build these kinds of venues.
All right, Commissioner Reeder.
Just one last thing. Listening to Commissioner Immel, I was looking at this same area after he spoke, and I would think it would be a good idea to put some signage in this intersection saying through traffic merge left, because I think California law says you're not supposed to change lanes in an intersection. And without a sign, I don't think there's adequate time to merge left before Erbs Road with just the arrows on the pavement.
Well, we have Sergeant Patterson here today. He could answer that question.
I don't believe there is a law that specifically prohibits changing lanes in it.
Which was my understanding, although I'm
right.
reminded by backseat drivers that I'm wrong. So now I know I'm right.
However, there's no. This is quite a large intersection. There's no lane designating markers on the pavement there, so it just looks like it might be a good idea to give the motorists a little heads up.
Be right turn only in that lane. There is today, and that drawing is really a depiction. It's not an actual construction drawing, because the construction drawings are pretty hard to read. So that striping will include right turn only as it is today. So there'll be the arrows on the street so that you'll know where you're going, or what the limitations are.
All right, Commissioner Lemo, one more time.
Well, I don't know that I'm going to ever live this down at home with my kids, but I went to Google. And it turns out that our officer is absolutely positively correct. As every time I've been stopped, I've realized that the police officers are usually correct. And he has a gun on top of it. But it is legal to change lanes in an intersection, though I remember most of my backseat drivers telling me not to as well.
All right. Well, all good instructions. I personally will look forward to this. I think the city is taking a step forward. I wish it much success. My question is very simple, and you can be very succinct, and that is these city-installed trees. Will they have foliage year-round?
So the actual species of these trees has yet to be determined and is still under discussion. At this point in time, we are thinking that those trees will likely be deciduous. They will lose their leaves in the winter and have nice canopies in the summer. We are hoping that they will be selected such that they will grow up and out of the sidewalk and signage zone for the businesses in a very quick period of time. The big challenge here is, of course, to make sure that we install them correctly and have the right watering system and root barriers, so that they grow down and don't disrupt the sidewalk. Additionally, because of the size of this big wide sidewalk, we will have oversized tree wells, which will give us a better opportunity to hopefully manage our urban forest.
Good. Well, thank you, because I know trees can be very beautiful, but they can be difficult to maintain, and they don't do what you tell them to. So everything is perfect. With everybody's questions being asked, I think that concludes that. Thank you very much for the report. We're going to move on to our next item then, for which we do have a speaker card, but before we start, Ms. Sandoval, would you like to read the public comment statement? Or does that come afterwards? No, okay, we won't do that. All right, so we're moving on to, hold on one sec, item 6B, I believe it is. And that's the stop sign. Yeah, I think we're on 6B. This is for stop sign installation at 2 locations.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm over here again. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Mixing you guys up tonight. The recommendation on the last item was that your approval of the final design concept or recommendation that we take this item on to City Council. If you,
I didn't
if you don't
see
mind.
an
I'm
action
sorry.
item on it.
That was recommendation number 2.
All right. Well, anybody would like to make a motion on that?
I will. I move that we take staff recommendation number 2 and move this item on.
Should we call for a vote then?
Commissioner Reeder,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lemo,
Yes.
and Chair Gregory.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Do we have a report for that?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
presenting
sorry.
that one.
Jim,
Okay, yes, thank you, Chair Gregory. This item before you is to consider adding stop sign control at 2 intersections within a residential neighborhood in response to a public concern that we received. Both locations are along Campbell Avenue. One is at Bethany Street, and the second location is at Queensbury Street. Neither intersection has stop or yield signs in place to regulate right-of-way. And the concern that we received is that some drivers traveling northbound on both Bethany and on Queensbury failed to yield properly to traffic that's on Campbell Avenue, which results in conflicts at the intersection. We've gone to both locations and observed that this driving behavior does happen, and it can be corrected with the installation of stop sign control in both northbound directions. We've also identified that there is impaired visibility at both locations that also can be corrected or mitigated with stop signs, and that's due to corner landscaping, vehicles parked curbside, and some road curvature. Stop signs are one of the few devices that are not approved administratively by staff. They require City Council approval, and we've adopted a practice to vet these proposals to the Traffic Commission before we take them on to the City Council for consideration. Here's a location map that shows the two T intersections along Campbell Avenue that we've evaluated. They're in the neighborhood that is near Aspen Elementary School, just south of Lynn Road. At these T intersections, the vehicle code requires that the terminating streets shall yield the right-of-way to the cross street, whether signage is posted or not. And at locations where the signage is not posted, such as these, we've adopted a practice to post the stop signs at the terminating legs to eliminate any confusion as to who has the right-of-way and to be consistent with traffic engineering best practice policies. I do want to point out we are not proposing all-way stop sign control at either location. All-way control is reserved for heavily traveled intersections where there's a constant flow of traffic from all directions, and a heavy traffic level for 8 hours of the day. Neither intersection satisfies this condition. I'm just going to show you a picture of Queensbury Street here at Campbell Avenue headed northbound. And this is when you get to the intersection looking to the right. You'll see here in this at this time, when the picture was taken, a large vehicle was parked curbside, impairing your line of sight. And then here's the same intersection looking to the left. There's corner landscaping and vegetation that impairs your view, looking at traffic that's traveling eastbound on Campbell Avenue. We have a similar situation existing at Bethany Street. We don't have, I didn't put pictures of that in this presentation. As part of our public outreach, we've mailed out 65 notifications to the residents within a 500-foot radius of both intersections, asking the residents to provide their input on the recommendation this evening. And we have received one email from a resident in support of the staff recommendation. A copy of that email was presented to the commissioners prior to this meeting. So in summary, we're recommending stop sign installations in the northbound directions of travel of both intersections to achieve a number of goals listed here, and it should address the public concern that we received regarding drivers who fail to yield the right-of-way at both intersections. One thing I do want to point out is that these stop signs are not designed to control speeding or other undesirable driving behavior. So with that, the staff recommendation is in the staff report, and the recommendation developed by the commission this evening will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. I don't have a question so much as I have seen similar roads like that. I even have one in my own neighborhood. I didn't request it, but other people did, and it really does a good job of assigning who has the right of way, and that people should definitely come to complete stop, look both ways, and safely go on. So it's to promote safety. It has nothing to do with speed whatsoever. We hate putting stop signs in, except when there is a practical reason for it. And I think this is one of those cases. Any other commissioners have any comments? All right. In light of that, then we will move on to our speaker. Okay. And
one speaker has submitted a speaker card, and speakers are allowed 3 minutes to speak.
All right, speakers have, I do, before you even start, want to say, we do have one letter, and it was for installing the stop signs, and this would be Peter Lauer. And could you state your name on the microphone and your residence?
Peter Lauer, excuse me, 1959 Campbell Avenue, Thousand Oaks, 91360. And I'd like to before you start the clock, thank Jim Mashika for following through on our request and for the commission for considering our request. And it primarily does relate to safety factors. Our neighborhood is a beautiful, beautiful representative of Thousand Oaks. And in recent years, we've been very fortunate that a number of younger families have moved in with young children. And excuse me, mixed with the growing population of some of our seniors, including myself, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of kids riding bicycles and skateboards and just the people walking dogs constantly. So just to ensure the safety, we were really concerned about the speed limit, which we're not dealing with right now on Campbell, because from Camino Manzanas all the way through to the cul-de-sac, there are no signs, no stop signs or anything. And people do build up their speed. But we do feel also that coming down the streets, Queensbury, Bethany, Massey, that there has to be some control because we've seen a lot of near misses. And it's kind of, the question is, well put by Jim, who has the right of way? And we don't care who has the right of way as long as somebody realizes that someone does have the right of way, which means someone has to stop. So we thank you for your effort and look forward to continued success in dealing with this situation. Does anybody have?
Yeah, any questions by any of the commissioners? Thank you for coming, sharing the info for us. All right. I don't believe there were any questions of staff, so we'll move on forward. No further comments from the commissioners? No? I think we're good. In this case, I think I'll make the motion that we adopt staff's recommendation to install these 2 stop signs at these locations per the reasons given. And is there a second to that?
I'll second.
We have a second. Should we call a vote then?
Commissioner Emo?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeder?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lemo?
Yes.
And Chair Gregory.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. The Traffic Commission makes recommendations to the City Council, and interested parties may attend the City Council meeting and speak either for or against the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. Any person wishing to appeal a decision of the Traffic Commission shall file a written appeal and pay an appeal fee with the City Clerk Department within 14 calendar days of this decision. The matter will be referred to the City Council at the earliest reasonable and available date. The appeal fee will be refunded only if the City Council overturns the Traffic Commission's decision. An appeal form is available from the recording secretary.
All right. Commissioner Lemo does have one request.
Just one, and if we can make this notation when this goes to council, because I don't remember this happening very often. We had no speakers nor emails against this item, so if the city council can actually know this was really something that was well taken by the community.
And on that note, I also want to thank the people that live there, because our job is simply to make the community safer. And we can't be all places at all times. We have tools in our box, and when they fit, we're happy to use them. So thank you for coming. I know it took some time. Thanks again. Okay, so moving on here, we are at item 7. All right. Does this require... Is somebody giving a report, or was this
just information that the last item that the commission reviewed in March was approved by City Council in April?
Okay. So our recommendation. Okay. And number 8, we had no commission referrals. last meeting. Work program commission schedule was attached. The commissioners, do you have any questions to ask staff? No, I think that was all straightforward. Item, hold on one sec. What's the section here where we do referrals? Is that 10? That's part of 10. Okay, because I see an action item here too. Because actually on the referral side, I do have a request, all right? And it's not a urgent, immediate one, but I've noted a couple times while traveling that the intersection of Moore Park Road and Olson, that all the traffic on Olson sometimes sits for as much as 20 seconds without a car in sight on Moore Park Road. And I don't know if that's a timing issue or I just happened to be there at the wrong time, but it seems like, okay, all the traffic goes wherever the signal directs, and everybody on Olson's looking around going, why are we sitting here? Nothing is changing. And I counted it up. It's a good 15 to 20 seconds, and it's happened multiple times. And I don't know if that just happened to be a unique day or if that's a timing issue, staff can look at or has time to look at. I know we want to create a better, flow, and that doesn't promote it when there's no cars around and we're all just sitting there looking at each other. So if you'd maybe check into it as time permits only. Thank you. Any other commissioners?
I have just one that I'd like you to reaffirm taking a look at. I have seldom been inconvenienced by it, but at Via Ricardo and Borchard, I've seen in the last week 4 crashed red lights, and no one was at risk. They sat there so long looking to make a left turn on Borchard that they just went ahead. I mean, there was literally no traffic. They just made the left-hand turn. I know that's probably still illegal, and I didn't do it. I just want to go on the record right now. I looked a little surprised, but not much. There are times, it doesn't happen all the time, but it seems that there are times where that light has a hiccup, and it could be as much as 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. Nothing happens. Even if there's traffic going both ways, it's not. So I don't know if we have a malfunctioning light or something wrong with the system, but I've seen that myself. By the way, is it against the law if you crash red light and there's no traffic anywhere? Well, that's enough for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a big no-no. Any other commissioners have any referrals? All right. Okay. Commissioner Reeder.
I wasn't going to say anything, but with Commissioner Lemel's comment, I saw a similar intersection, and I called Mr. Sweeting, and he said, thanks for letting me know, because it was not essentially malfunctioning. If something happens with the traffic light, it goes to a default. So it's a dumb light from a smart light. So I don't know if the intersection you're talking about is a smart intersection or not, but that's what Mr. Sweeting, who controls the traffic signals, told me.
All right. Good to know. We don't want anybody making left-hand turns on red. That's never a good thing. Anyways, okay, so I think we've answered all questions. We had a good meeting. There is one more action item, and that is I don't see anything essential on our July 17th meeting schedule, so I am going to take a vote to see if the commissioners agree that we should go ahead and cancel that. And remind you that we are historically dark in August, so we'll have 2 more months off. This won't be a real heavy year so far as meetings, because we'll only probably have a couple before the end of the year. But it is as we're needed, correct? So should we take a hand vote or?
A hand vote is fine.
All right. So all in favor of canceling July 17th meeting, and then, of course, that leads into August and not resuming until September 18th. Please raise your hand. All right, I believe we passed unanimously, so passed. And in that case, I will adjourn. I won't even use the hammer. Knock, knock. The Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission is now adjourned until 6 p.m. on September 18th in the boardroom of the Civic Arts Plaza on the 3rd floor. Good night to everybody. Drive